Hey guys, so I'm in San Francisco and I was just on a train over here. The train, of course, was built like 25 years ago by the Japanese. What's really interesting is that, you know, there's a huge, I guess it's opening day for the Major League Baseball. And, you know, when a country is on the way down, it doesn't necessarily impact anything in terms of fun. If anything, you double down on the fun in order to distract the population from what's happening. And one way you do that is actually just by doing things like, you know, doubling down on fun and debt. So instead of having companies that make stuff, although of course that's not any sort of guarantee, right? The Soviet Union made a lot of stuff and they still failed. But this right here is Pinterest. That's a new building and it just went public. I don't know if you can see it. Let's see if we can try to, there we go. There's that P for Pinterest. It's a website where you post photos. It's not altogether different from Instagram or anything else, or Facebook. If anything, it's got less functionality. But that's the company that goes public, they raise money, and they buy a building, and ultimately this neighborhood, which isn't really much to look at, it's a beautiful day, but you know, there's like a warehouse on the other side. The idea is you get the money, the banks make money, they can loan more money, and over time, the neighborhood becomes revitalized. Now, nobody thought about wages. You know, nobody thought about, hey, you know, what about, you know, well, what do we do now? And some people did. So they have mixed use. They have retail on the bottom and then condos up top. But of course, you go smaller, it makes it harder to have, you know, families. The level of square footage that you need to charge probably goes up the smaller the unit goes. So that's one thing you want to recognize about wherever you are, right? The idea is to have a balance between each sector so that one sector does not overextend itself. And I'm here because there's it's independent book sale or bookstore day, and you don't want a society that, you know, where that's the only option. You want a society where you have baseball games, where you have football games, but you know, you want to have a balance. If you end up in a situation where all that entertainment money is going towards, you know, UFC, which is martial arts fighting, at some point you got to look back and say, well, we're still out of balance here. This has happened before. You know, we called it bread and circuses, but the bread and circuses have become so much better now. You can't really tell, and they're coming at you from all sides, corporate, local. It's not just the government that is handling it. So ultimately, the question is, what happens? What's the lesson to learn from America's, you know, America being the shortest empire in the history of the world, collapsing from 2001 all the way up until probably 2014, 15 was when we knew China had controlled the majority of the top 10 ports, had more, you know, we owe money to them, they don't owe money to us on a net basis. So in about 15, 16 years, you've got a total reversal from the collapse of the Soviet Union in 1991. And we just had a report called the Mueller report from the Special Counsel's Office, which essentially says that the Russian government interfered in the American election, favoring essentially anybody that was not Hillary Clinton. And the reason I think they won is because we've become the new Soviet Union, but with better propaganda. And that's why, you know, we beat the Soviet Union in 1990. We became the Soviet Union, where we had an economy that was driven by military spending. We got essentially manipulated by the Soviet Union. So I think the next step would be for the Soviets to become, you know, capitalist. And then I don't know what happens next if this progression continues. And so two things: you need balance. You also don't want to become your enemy. When you beat the enemy, there's a temptation to incorporate a lot of their scientists, a lot of the politicians into your own framework, because the last thing you want is a bunch of guys with weapons coming after you and splinter groups. But again, keep in mind, you want balance between all forms of entertainment, and you want to make sure there's some sort of direct nexus between reality and substance and whatever form of entertainment you have going on. If you don't have that, you end up becoming the shortest empire in the history of the world. And then you got to figure out where to go to. You know, is it going to be Japan, China, a combination of all of Asia? What's going to happen? And I think that's the question a lot of people should be asking themselves right now.